Are you working tirelessly on your marriage, but nothing seems to improve? If your husband says he's trying, but your marriage keeps sinking, watch this. So I can continue bringing you this kind of important information, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support my work directly, click the join button below. After working with betrayed women for almost 2 decades, this is the clearest way I know how to explain what it feels like when your husband is lying to you and you don't know. I'm going to use a metaphor because metaphors help women make sense of what their body already knows. So let's find out. Imagine this. A woman feels like she's on a small, precarious raft with her husband. The kids are there, and because she always feels like they're going to sink into the depths, she brings in a therapist, hoping someone can finally help them make this easier. Find out how to patch the holes faster and how to strengthen the raft so it doesn't keep leaking. And the therapist is happy to do that. That therapist teaches them how to patch those holes effectively. But the raft keeps getting holes. And this becomes an endless cycle. She's constantly bailing water, patching one hole after another. Now, it looks like her husband is helping, that he's in the same boat, making sure that their family doesn't sink. I mean, he is going to therapy, he goes to church, he has a good job, he helps the neighbors. For the most part, he seems like a really good guy. And everyone else thinks he's a really good guy. So that's what makes this so confusing. Because usually when a woman feels uneasy about her marriage, people suggest that she goes to therapy. That's the solution. But what if they've already been in therapy for years? And things do improve for a little while, but then something happens and it seems like they're back at square one. When they cycle back to square one, she'll hear him say things like, "I'm trying so hard, I'm really struggling with maybe his anger," or he says he's struggling with an addiction, or maybe stress from his job. He'll say, "I work so hard for this family, and I need you to do your part." When that happens, most women don't realize this until years later. This is where the cost quietly starts to add up. It's not all at once, it's not dramatically, it's slowly over the years. Women tell me that after years of keeping the raft from sinking, they're exhausted, but they feel guilty for being tired. They're committed, just like they always have been, and they're really anxious. And they think it's them. They think maybe they have an anxiety problem. They don't realize that the anxiety is justified. By this time, they're really strong, but they're starting to feel invisible. Because when you're doing all of the bailing, you don't get to rest. You don't get space to think about your goals or your interests or your life. She's too busy keeping everyone else afloat. And this is the really confusing part. When she's so strong and capable, she's going to be celebrated for holding everything together, when no one is pointing out that she's the only one doing it. And so she's going to be the one who continues to search for help. So she's going to be looking for like the right program or maybe the right expert. She's going to be reading all of the marriage books, following addiction recovery or couple therapists on social media. And that's when she might run across me. In this metaphor, let's pretend like that's me pulling next to the raft in a boat that never springs mysterious leaks. So here on YouTube, I'm like, "Hey, hop in. What I have to show you could save you years of confusion." Now I know because I was in this boat. I knew in my bones that if I stopped bailing our raft, my marriage would sink. So the fear of taking a rest from bailing out the raft, that's very real. Of course, you're going to be worried about that. So as I pull up in my boat, sometimes I hear women say, "Oh, no thanks, Anne, we already have a therapist." Or, "My husband is really trying. We just need to patch a few more holes." When I hear that, it makes sense. I get it. But here's what no one on the raft can see. It's what the women I interviewed wished someone had told them, and it's what I've helped women see for years. What if he won't drown without you? What if your husband just wants you to believe that he will? What if that's part of his manipulation? What if the raft is actually sitting in shallow water? And what if she could stand up, and so could he, and so could the kids? See, marriage shouldn't feel like a raft that keeps springing leaks. In a healthy marriage, no one is frantically bailing water. Both people feel secure and steady on solid ground. They're free to enjoy each other and focus on their goals and hobbies. If your marriage feels like survival, something is very wrong. And it may be that her husband has a secret life, a hidden world built on lies. And if that's the case, the marriage will always feel like it might sink into the depths. Because every time he sneaks off into his hidden world, he's gonna poke another hole. That's what's springing the leaks. And because he returns and hands her a patch and says, I love you, I don't want us to sink, let's work on this together, she doesn't realize that's happening. And if he's lying, he'll lie to the therapist too. And all the therapist will see is a hardworking woman and a man who says he's trying. And this right here is where women lose years of their lives. And it's not because she's doing anything wrong. In fact, she's doing everything right. If your husband is betraying you in this way, you won't know. But you will feel confused and uneasy and like nothing ever quite settles. You'll be working so hard on the marriage that you won't have the clarity or space to focus on your own life, your growth, or your hobbies. Not knowing that marriage should never feel like a constant crisis. And this is the part that matters more than most women realize. Years spent in this state, they don't just disappear. They show up in your body, in your health, in how tired you feel before the day even starts. They show up in the quiet grief of realizing you've been surviving instead of living. And it's not because you weren't strong enough. It's not because you didn't try hard enough. It's because a marriage should never feel like it's on the verge of sinking. And a lot of women don't notice this until something small breaks inside of them, like they find themselves crying at the grocery store or realizing they can't remember the last time they felt calm in their own home. That's usually the moment they realize something's really wrong here. And that starts the cycle again. So of course they're going to keep bailing. Of course you're going to hope that someday you've patched all the holes and you can sail off into the sunset and live happily ever after. So if your husband keeps saying that he's working with you, but the raft keeps springing leaks and you can't figure out why, I can help you see whether that feeling has been manufactured by your husband to keep you working tirelessly on the marriage instead of knowing that your feet really can touch the bottom, that you're not going to drown, and that marriage was never supposed to feel this way. And here's the good news. If he isn't betraying you, you'll see that just as clearly. That's why I created my free email course, to help you understand what's actually happening before you invest more years of trying to fix something that may not need fixing at all. And I got this information from all the women that I interviewed who told me if I'd known this sooner, it would have saved me years of pain and chaos. If your marriage is still confusing after you've asked for help, if you're doing everything right but nothing feels better, if your husband seems like a good guy but you keep catching him in lies, please don't wait. Confusion isn't neutral. It costs women time and peace, and for many women, it costs them their physical and mental health. Click the link below to get my free email course and you can start today. Not after one more therapy session, not after patching one last leak. Because whether he's betraying you or not, clarity changes everything, and you deserve it.